Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. And so today we're going to be talking about a little about football stuff here. We haven't talked about football a little bit in a while, a little bit, with season coming up really soon. Very excitement going on right now. But so I wanted to talk about this whole stadium stuff that everyone's talking about this offseason, because that has been like the word of the offseason for new stadiums. And I mainly want to talk about the two components of this that are, not that there aren't other people possibly proposing stadiums, because we all know Washington wants a new stadium because their stadium is just awful. But and while that stadium is a crap duster that has, not a good stadium, and it's been around only since 1999, that actually does need to be replaced. The fact of the matter is, most stadiums that are around that age are usually relatively in good shape, as long as you actually have good owners that actually takes care of it. But the main thing we're talking about today is we're going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns Stadium and the Chicago Bears stadiums. Okay, so these are the talk this offseason that everyone's been really talking about in terms of stadium deals and, what's going to happen with these stadiums, and are they going to be renovated? Are they going to go to a new stadium? Everything's been thrown out there. So we're going to start with the Chicago Bears because they are my rivals, being a diehard Green Bay Packers fan. So even though I love to see the Chicago Bears misery on the field, I understand the connection because I have the connection with my Green Bay Packers. The frozen tundra, the Packers are made to play in the cold, in the element. So the whole thing with the Chicago Bears right now, Soldier Field, is, they play in the elements, but the owners of the Bears, which, by the way, they're not the real owners because we all know Aaron Rodgers is the real owner. But anyways, so the supposed owners are they're basically really forcing on wanting a dome, basically. But that's not even really the whole thing, because it's not just that they want a dome, it's that they want a new stadium altogether. And they want a new stadium altogether because Soldier Field has been around for about 80 years or whatever. The Bears have only been tenants there since like the 70s or whatever. But the stadium itself has been around for 80 years. Okay. But the stadium is in relatively good shape for an 80-year-old stadium. If you look at some of the other crappy stadiums, like I just mentioned, the Washington Stadium right now is total garbage, considering the fact that stadium opened in 1999. That is just a disgrace of how terrible the owner handled that stadium. Another thing by Dan Schneider there. So the Bear Stadium is in relatively good shape. The biggest issue with the owner is, so the city of Chicago owns Soldier Field, not the Chicago Bears. And because of that, they basically can't sell the naming rights because it's Soldier Field. It's supposed to be like, I think it was originally like a national landmark. I think they lost their landmark status though in recent years, but the whole idea was it was supposed to be a landmark field or whatever. And that's also led to the 2003 renovations that they gave it. And the 2003 renovations for this stadium were like a lot of money. There was like a shit ton of money for the renovations for this in 2003. And to this day, the Chicagoans have not paid it off yet. It's at $400 million still left Again, the 2003 renovations still have been not paid off. Okay, these renovations happened in 2003, and they're still paying on them today. They still have $400 million left in the stadium to pay off for those renovations. Okay, and the Chicago Bears want a new stadium, and they basically want to tear down the stadium that the taxpayers are still on the hook for. So Soldier Field is still on the hook for $400 million for the people in Chicago are still paying on that. And like in 5 years from now, or whenever the stadium is officially approved, or whenever they decide to make a new stadium, wherever it is, we'll get to that later. But they're basically wanting to tear that stadium down, whenever the new stadium is made, which is just ludicrous. Now, that lease is supposed to go until 2033, but they can get out of it in 2026. I don't think they're going to have a new stadium by 2026, because that's in like 3 years, and they still haven't got an official approval of where the new stadium is going to be. And we won't hear anything until at least next year now, because they've publicly denied it. The owner, it's been denied by the voters. It's been denied by the governor of Illinois. So it's not going anywhere this year, and they're probably going to go back to conversations next year, and even then it probably won't get approved. So there's going to be delays. The earliest I think it will be possibly happening for a new stadium will probably be 2026 for Chicago if they get a new stadium. But I just think that's insane. I'm going to tell you right now, because I don't live in Chicago. If I lived in Chicago right now, I'd be furious. I'd be furious about them trying to make a new stadium when they haven't even paid off the renovations for the existing stadium right now. I live in I live in like the New York area, where the Bills play, for example, and I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, even though I don't live in Wisconsin. I've been a diehard Packers fan since I was a kid. But because people in the county of where the Bills play are all on the hook. It's not just Orchard Park or Buffalo, because the stadium's actually in Orchard Park. It's not in Buffalo. It's not in downtown Buffalo. But everybody has to pay that tax. And I'm furious about that, because I get no benefit from it. And that's the thing. A lot of the people that aren't football fans or aren't really fans of the team per se, I'm a Packers fan, again. It shares no benefit to us, and we're on the hook for the next 30, 40 years of the stadium, right? Now, when it came to the Bills, I knew the stadium was going to happen, because every branch of government in New York State agreed to have a new stadium. So I knew the Bills were going to get a new stadium, and they got it exactly the way Pegula wanted it, outdoors, which is kind of surprising when you think about it, since all these other owners don't want it to be outdoors anymore. But Pegula wanted it to be outdoors. It's so weird, and we'll get to these other owners too, but it's so weird, because the one thing I will say is, even though I didn't get a say in the stadium business, the one thing I will say is I'm glad it's outdoors. I'm glad, because the Buffalo Bills should be playing in the elements. It should be in the elements. You have to make the choice as a fan whether you want to show up in the cold weather and watch the game. I don't like this whole idea that, the fans, they don't like the cold or whatever. They don't want to go see the game if it's cold. Well, then watch it on TV then. Watch it on TV. If you don't want to go to a damn game where it's cold, then watch it on TV and sell your ticket, if you're a season ticket holder. My whole stance on that is, you are, the team, it's a team. I played football in high school. Man, You play in the elements. When you're a football player, you play in the elements. You cannot do that. You cannot. You should want to play in the elements. That's smash mouth football. You know, this whole idea that the fans are they won't come if well then just watch it on TV then. There are a bunch of fans that are gonna go in the weather. You know what I'm saying? That's football, man. That's football, and that's how it should be played. It should be played in the elements. Should be played on grass, real grass. That's the elements, man. That's how it should be. And so that's the one thing I'll say that I am happy about the stadium, despite the fact that I don't like that they're making a new stadium anyways, because the existing stadium is fine. That stadium is 40 years old and it is fine. There is nothing wrong with the current stadium, Highmark Stadium or whatever it's called now. Walter Wilson Stadium. That's what it used to be called, Walter Wilson Stadium. That stadium is fine the way it is. There is nothing wrong with that stadium. But whatever. But getting back to the situation with the Browns and the Bears here, the Bears, the biggest distraction here for the Chicago Bears is they want to build a stadium. Originally, they wanted to move it to Arlington Heights. And, of course, that fell through because I guess there's some type of school district tax or something like that. Even though they own the land, they bought the land for the horse racing track or whatever. But now, this offseason, we've heard that they want to get in Chicago. Now, this Democratic mayor was totally on board for it in Chicago, but obviously the governor is like, no. And the Democratic legislators in Illinois don't want it either. So, and also, they basically wanted it where the Star Wars thing was going to go. Like George Lucas, before he sold it to Disney, wanted to put like a museum there. Like he wanted to build something there, like a Star Wars museum or some shit like that. And that didn't work out. And it doesn't seem like they're going to budge with the Bears here on this either. I don't see it going there. It's not going to happen. The politicians are not on their side, with the exception of the Chicago mayor. Everyone else seems to be not in favor of this. The governor of Illinois said he'd rather see a healthcare center be made over a stadium. So there you go with that one. But at the end of the day, I still think they should play outdoors no matter what. And I don't even think they should leave Soldier Field. I don't think there's really anything wrong with Soldier Field personally. It doesn't look that bad of a stadium. I mean, like, I've seen stadiums in worse conditions. Will they eventually have to build a new one? Maybe. But right now, I mean, especially from a taxpayer perspective, I wouldn't want that stadium to go because they're still on the hook for $400 million for a 2003 renovation. Anybody who's watching this that's a Chicago resident, I don't know if people are up in knowing this, but you're still on the hook for $400 million for that 2003 renovation. I looked this up. I did some research on this. You guys still are on the hook for that. I mean, if I was living in Chicago, I'd be pissed that we're still on the hook for all this money for that stadium renovation, and then we have to now basically tear the stadium down in like 5 years, and then, oh yeah, guess what? New stadium, and guess what? It's going to be about $1 billion, and we're going to be on the hook for that for the next 40 years. All right? It's been 20 years since the renovations. Over 20 years since the renovations by a year. And they're still at $400 million still left in debt for that. And now we're gonna contribute another $1 billion for a new stadium on top of paying off this existing stadium that no longer will exist in 5 years. In about 5 years. That's just insane to me. That's just insane. So that's the thing about Chicago situation. Where do I think it will go? I think they're going to Arlington Heights. At the end of the day, they own the land there. And they're not talking about it so much right now, but with this deal basically being a dead end because the Illinois governor basically said that they're not getting funding here. So, and you have the Democratic legislators that are all in agreement on this. So the Bears are not going to be there. They are not going to be there. They didn't get it with George Lucas, and I don't think the Bears are getting it either. Could be wrong, but the politicians are not in his favor, are not in the ownership's favor for the Bears. And the reason why I say that they're probably going to move to Arlington Heights now is because they actually own the land. Like the owners in Chicago, the owner groups in Chicago literally own that land. They personally bought the land themselves. Now they're going to have to work out a deal with the school district or whatever there, the local school district there. But I'm sure they'll get that done. They'll figure something out for that. I guarantee you, next offseason, we're going to hear stuff about Arlington Heights. I'm almost willing to bet we're going to hear that stuff, that whole conversation creep up again because, again, they own the land there. So they bought the land there. So that's where I think that is going right now. That is where I think it's going right now. Again, we probably won't have an official deal done until 2 years from now. But that is where I think it's going right now. They're not saying anything about that, but that's where I think it's going to go. We won't hear anything about it until next offseason. They're not going to say anything until the next offseason. So that's when most of the stadium stuff gets hyped up anyways. So that's what you're going to see about that. Now, getting to the Cleveland Browns, which this one is the more interesting situation because there's so many things. And like the Bears and like Cleveland right now, it doesn't necessarily matter that they're not actually in the city in which they're representing for the stadium because obviously the Bills since the 70s have not actually been in Buffalo. They've been in Orchard Park, which is a rural area. Dallas moved out of Dallas and are in Arlington. The Jets and the Giants don't even play in the actual state that they represent. They play in New Jersey. So the fact of the matter, the city that you represent doesn't necessarily have to be the city. It doesn't necessarily have to be where the stadium is as long as it's like right next door or something like that, or it's in the same county. That's basically how it is. And so that's where, these issues come in where people say, oh, it has to be in the heart of the city. It has to be in the heart of the city. Not necessarily. But with the Cleveland Browns, it's kind of a different situation. And why do I say it's a different situation with the Cleveland Browns? Because the state of Ohio has this rule called the Art Modell Rule. Which was enacted and put into effect in 1996 following the original Cleveland Browns franchise moving to Baltimore, which we all know that franchise ended up being renamed the Ravens because the city of Cleveland ended up winning the rights to the team history and name and trademarks and stuff like that, which is what led to the Cleveland Browns coming back in 1999 the way they were. They have this rule in the book basically where, they have to give the owner 6 months, or they have to give the city 6 months to find a buyer to sell it if, you try to take the Browns out of Cleveland. Now, some people are saying, well, this rule only applies to it moving out of state, like what happened with them moving to Baltimore. No, it does not. This rule actually applies to any Ohio team that gets state tax funding for leasing and stuff like that. If they move out of any part of that city in the state of Ohio, that's when the rule is put into effect. That's when the Art Modell law is put into effect. It's put into effect the moment you try to move it out in any part of Ohio. So because, Cleveland Brown is in Cleveland. So if you move the team out of Cleveland, that rule is put into effect where they can now force the owner to sell the team to someone that they want, and you have to give them 6 months notice. This applies for any sports team in the state of Ohio, not just the Cleveland Browns, but obviously the rule was made for the Cleveland Browns. But if a situation happened to the Cincinnati Bengals, say, or any other sports team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, it basically applies. So that's how that rule works. So it going to Brook Park, for example, right next door, it applies because technically Brook Park is not a part of Cleveland. So it's not a big jump, but it is still a jump. And so that's why I say Cleveland Browns are a little different. It's a little different situation here. So the biggest example, I guess, upon doing my research on this is that, which is kind of ironic because it actually goes into Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns. I guess like a decade ago, the soccer team for the Columbus, I don't know what their names were, but there was a Columbus, Ohio team, a soccer team basically, that the owner wanted to move the team out of Cleveland, or not Cleveland, I'm sorry, out of Ohio, like out of the state of Ohio. He wanted to move them to Texas basically. But he wasn't allowed to legally do that because of the Art Modell rule. The Art Modell rule was activated. This is the first time they actually used the Art Modell rule since the law was put into effect in 1996. And this rule basically forced him and the league to basically sell the team to, somebody else, which ended up ultimately being Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy Haslam owns the soccer team. And eventually the previous owner that wanted to move him to Houston or whatever, he ended up getting an expansion team in Houston anyways. But had it not been for the Art Modell rule, he would have been crapped out. They would have been crapped out of luck. But that's how Jimmy Haslam was able to get that team. So Jimmy Haslam very much knows the Art Modell rule. He's very much aware of this rule. Okay, he's aware of this rule because he used it to his advantage the one time that it was activated. But now it seems like the shoe is on the other foot now, because now it seems like this rule is going to be activated on him, because just a couple months ago the politician had literally said that they are activating it. Now, that being said, it doesn't necessarily mean nothing's going to happen to him personally, because I don't think there is. But it does create a situation because Jimmy Haslam publicly had said that the stadium, there's two options: either renovate the existing Cleveland Browns stadium or build a new stadium in Brook Park. Now, that's a dome, by the way. Now, what they just said, they just did rendering releases of Brook Park, which again is about a $1.2 billion renovation. The city of Cleveland mayor is not for it, Democrat, and the county that's within Cleveland and Brook Park has said no as well, and they just did a press conference about it. They're in agreement with this. Now, that being said, we all know Ohio is a Republican dominated state, despite the fact that Cleveland's mayor is a Democrat and the county is also Democrat. So this is going to be quite of a interesting struggle, because we don't know where I don't know where the Ohio Republican governor's stance is on this, but I can almost certainly say that he's definitely not going to be really keen with the Democrat side on this. That being said, he might not want the team to move out of downtown either. I don't know what his stance is. I don't know if he's a Browns fan or he's a Bengals fan. So I don't know what his backstory is. Because if he's a Browns fan, he might not want the team to move either. See, it's different with sports. It's different with sports, though. It's different with sports. You just never know. But Republicans are more business friendly, so he might just be okay with the Brook Park project anyways. But Jimmy Haslam also said that he's not going to put this on a ballot and he's not going to pay for it, which everybody knows these billion-dollar owners can pay for it. They just choose not to, which is just ridiculous because they're going to get all the rights to it. The fans are going to get no benefits to it besides the prices being raised. They're not going to get discounts on season tickets. They're not going to get, food discount, which these are some of the things that I think they should have. At the very least, if we're gonna be taxed on this shit for 20 to 40 years, we should at the very least get, season ticket discounts or food discounts or, the shop merchandise, even just a small 20%. That's all hard to ask for at this point. Something, man. At least where we could say, okay, we get some type of benefit because we get a discount on something for these damn games, okay, that are being played. But no, they never do that either. But then they sell off the naming rights and stuff like that to get more money. It's insane. But, so, see, here's the problem with this, is Jimmy Haslam, I don't know, he's playing two ways here. Okay? He's saying that he would like it renovated or he wants it at Brook Park with a dome. Okay, he's publicly saying this, but yet we know deep down he wants it in Brook Park. But he's still saying that he wants it renovated. But now last week, before the renderings for Brook Park came out, okay, he basically, or the mayor of Cleveland gave him or offered him a $460 million renovation to the existing stadium. Now the existing stadium was a rush job when it was created in 1999. They had to rush it out because the stadium that originally was there was torn down in 96, or I think it was 97 when they tore it down, after the Browns left. And they basically built the new stadium that currently we see now where the old stadium was. It was a rush job because they wanted to obviously get, the stadium made as quickly as possible so the Browns could be back by 1999. So they did that. But the stadium obviously was rushed, and while the stadium was modern for the 1999 year, the stadium obviously is outdated for today's standard. But it's an outdoor stadium, which, it's a blue-collar town, just like the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals. They're all blue-collar, fucking teams, right? All outdoor, all elements, but yet the Browns want a dome. It's just, to me, it's just an eyesore the way I look at it. It's not, it looks, obviously it looks good from the renderings, but, I rather have an outdoor stadium, any day of the week. It's blue collar. Like, that whole division is supposed to be blue collar, outdoors and shit like that. So the way I look at this one is the more difficult one to predict, because Jimmy Haslam is publicly saying that there's two options. And we know deep down that it isn't true, but he's publicly saying that on the record. And now you're seeing the mayor, who originally didn't want to offer him anything, is now offering him $460 million for renovations. Okay? And that's still in taxpayers' money, so I don't know how people feel strongly about that. But, it's a renovation. I rather them do the renovation over building a new stadium. Even though I don't like the taxpayer account to this, because I know Jimmy Haslam can pay it on his own, but he chooses not to. I know that's unrealistic, but I would rather pay that over paying a $1.2 billion for a brand new stadium. And I also would not want a dome. I rather have them have the existing stadium. Like Lambeau Field. Lambeau Field is, and that's the thing too. Lambeau Field is publicly owned by the city, right? Only team. Would we even be having the discussion if the Browns were a publicly owned team? No, we wouldn't, because the team, the city would decide this. You know what I'm saying? And they would never get rid of the stadium, probably. They would just try to keep it updated, like the Packers are doing. The Packers renovate it like every 10 to 15 years, okay? And the stadium is in good shape. And the stadium is over like 60 years old, okay? The Lambeau Field is over 60 years old, okay? So I much rather see it go to the stadium just being improved than them making a new stadium. Who cares? And that's the thing, like, people are like, oh, look at all these big stadiums in LA and stuff. Like, who cares? Who cares that LA, has this big super stadium? Who cares that the Raiders got this big stadium? Okay? Like, dude, I just want to see regular football, man. I just want to see outdoor stadium. I want to just, I go there to watch the games. I don't care about this biggest stadium, and I don't want to pay a shit ton of money. I mean, the tickets are already expensive as it is. They're only going to go up more when you get new stadiums. So out of the two, between the Bears and the Browns, this is the most difficult one to predict. I personally do not think Jimmy Haslam's going to ultimately get his way in terms of them getting a dome or getting Brook Park, because it seems like the county, is not on board for it. Maybe he gets the governor to help, but at the end of the day, where's the governor going to finance it? Because if the county isn't going to pay for it, where's the governor going to tax? Who's the governor going to tax? The hotels, casino. I don't know if I don't know if they have the casinos legal in Ohio, other than the Native American casinos, because that's what we have here in New York. We have casinos owned by the Native Americans on the reservations, but we don't. Technically, casinos are illegal here. Only the Native Americans can own casinos and have them here. So I don't know if that's the situation in Ohio, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, they're going to probably... What I'm thinking is going to happen is if the governor of Ohio, because he's Republican, decides that, yeah, Brook Park's a better site, then I'm going to think that he's probably going to have the hotels be taxed and stuff like that, if I'm predicting, buildings, because he's not going to be able to force the county, I don't think, because the county has said no. They want to develop, and they already offered him $460 million for renovations, which is something he publicly said, So, I mean, that could be challenged in court, too, because he publicly has said, Haslam has publicly said that, renovation or Brook Park. Renovation or Brook Park. Well, the politicians are offering him the renovation. Why aren't you taking it? So there's gonna be some discrepancies with this. I'm telling you, there's gonna be a lot of challenges with this one. And also for people that because I also forgot to mention, for people that are gonna try to say that, oh, the Art Modell rule is unconstitutional or whatever, because I've heard that a lot. Jimmy Haslam is not gonna go all the way to the Supreme Court to get that declared unconstitutional. Okay, the Art Modell rule was designed as a stall tactic, because no owner is going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court, because that would take years. That would be held up in years into state court before it would go to the Supreme Court. And in the meantime, while the owners can be waiting, in the meantime, while the owners is waiting for it to go to the Supreme Court, they could be negotiating a deal with the city. So that, the whole idea, it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional, it doesn't matter, because unless it goes to the Supreme Court can't do anything about it. And I guarantee you, because the last whole owner for the soccer stuff didn't challenge it. He didn't challenge it because he knew it would take longer than it would be worth. And so that's why the league stepped in, the soccer team league stepped in and did what they did. Instead of trying to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court, which would take like 5 years or longer, it's better to just kind of get a deal done with the city and the state and whatnot. So that's not going to really change. Right now, my prediction is it's going to end up being renovated. Despite supposedly renderings for the renovations are going to also be coming out very soon, according to the county executive guy who did the press conference about it a few days ago. So that's going to probably come out at some point. We'll see. But at the end of the day, it's going to be hard for Jimmy Haslam to get his way because of the state laws that are in place. And like I said, if you think he's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, you're dreaming. It would take years. I mean, in the time that he would try to be challenging and fighting in the Supreme Court, he could have gotten a stadium already done within that 4 years, because it takes 3 years to make a stadium. So, and also, again, the lease ends in 2028. So he doesn't really have that much time to fight it to try to fight it in Supreme Court, because it would take too long. So, even if he got the Art Modell ruled unconstitutional, you're looking at like 2030 for that to get to the Supreme Court, especially with all the Supreme Court cases we get now, all polarizing cases that they get. I don't even know if they would want to hear this case, honestly. But anyways, that's not happening. The case will, the stadium will be on the books because no one's really going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court, and that was kind of how the whole Art Modell rule kind of was put into place. It was designed to be a stall tactic to prevent teams from moving and selling the team to other owners, that they like, that will keep the team there. That's the whole design of the law. You can't rule it unconstitutional if they never fight it all the way, which they're not going to. So, anyways, my prediction, Jimmy Haslam has everything against him in this. A lot of people are saying, he's going to overcome. The owners always overcome. But the way the laws are in Cleveland and Ohio, and the way the other people are saying, nope, we're not doing it, we're not on board for it, the only hope he would have is the governor. And I don't know what the governor's stance is on this. I don't know if he's a Cleveland fan or if he's a Bengals or a Cincinnati fan. But he might be a little biased too. We don't know. I don't know what his stance is. Someone else could give me more insight on that. But if he's in favor of the Brook Park project, he would have to figure out how the taxes would be distributed, which would be more challenging when the county doesn't want to put those through. But yeah, guys, that's where I think right now this is going. I think, and I really hope that Cleveland is going to be downtown still, because I just prefer outdoor stadiums. And I don't think really there's anything wrong with that stadium. I mean, it just hosted SummerSlam just not too long ago. So obviously it can host, it can host other events. That's not true that it can't host events. But yeah, that's my take on that. So right now, my prediction as it is right now, and unlike Chicago stadium situation, I'll also say this. Unlike Chicago situation, I think we are going to hear a lot during the season when it comes to the Cleveland Browns Stadium. I think there's going to be a lot of things during the season with this because there is so much drama going on back and forth. We've heard more news about them than we have heard news about Chicago, because it's back and forth with the county and the mayor, and it's a chess game right now between the owners and the county executives and the mayor. I do think we're going to hear stuff during the offseason, but we're not going to hear anything shape up until next offseason. But I think we're going to hear more stuff on that. But, yeah, my prediction right now is Cleveland will probably keep their existing stadium. And I think Chicago, unfortunately, will go to Arlington Heights. Even though I think they should just stay in Soldier Field. That's my personal take. I think they should stay in Soldier Field and stay in the elements and not build a dome. Because the Arlington Heights, well, no matter where they build a new stadium, it's going to have a dome. But I don't like it. I don't like it not being in the elements. Arlington Heights is probably going to be where Chicago plays now. But it's going to be on a dome, unfortunately. But that's where I think it is. I think Cleveland stays with the renovations, no dome, and Chicago goes to Arlington Heights, and unfortunately is a dome. But yeah, that's my stance, guys. Let me know what you guys think about these stadium things. Was there something I missed? Let me know if there's something that I didn't cover within these two stadium situations. Comment, rate if you like this video and my videos, please subscribe, hit the notification bell for the latest content. Thank you, and that is about it. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the SS Ultimate Goku, Twitch, the SS Ultimate Goku, Instagram, the SS Ultimate Goku, and also I do have a Discord link in the description where we discuss various topics, including this one. So yeah, go check it out. Also, I do have a YouTube membership as well with various tier lists, so make sure to go that as well. And now I'm out. Peace.